NOMA is calling on Ottawa and the province to focus more on softwood lumber duties in their U.S. tariff talks. Good evening, I'm Haley Perreault. Thank you for joining us. The Northwestern Ontario Municipal Association says the softwood lumber duties will seriously threaten the region's forest sector. The U.S. proposed a duty rate of 34.4% earlier this year, and it's expected to be put in place sometime in July. Justin Hardy spoke with NOMA President Rick Dumas today and joins us in studio. Justin, how are these increases expected to affect our region?
Haley, this is going to be massive. This year's NOMA conference saw the province touting the Northwest as Ontario's heart. Well, NOMA says the forestry industry is our backbone, and the move by the United States would more than double the current duty rate. That's why they want Canada and Ontario to prioritize resolving the dispute.
This is really could be a huge impact to specifically Northwestern and Northern Ontario, but for that matter, all of Canada.
NOMA is calling on provincial and federal leaders to make the lumber dispute a top trade priority. This letter sent to Prime Minister Mark Carney and Premier Doug Ford calls on them to work with stakeholders on mitigation measures and publicly acknowledge the urgency of the issue. It all comes as softwood lumber duties are about to rise from 14.5% to a whopping 34.4%. There's also the potential for additional U.S. tariffs on all forest products, pending the outcome of a Section 232 national security review this fall. NOMA President Rick Dumas says area municipalities need to know the upper levels of government are standing with them.
We need the federal and provincial governments of all stripes throughout the country to come together and say, listen, we're here to protect the oil, the forestry, the steel, the aluminum, all the industries that represent the huge economic impact and the economy to all our communities. We need to protect. So yes, the dialogue's been there. We just got to continue to make sure that we're lobbying on behalf of our communities we represent and bring the voice of the North from my position as Northwest to make sure that the government understands clearly that this will have devastating impacts if we continue to see these tariffs applied to the softwood lumber industry.
NOMA says that since the 2016 expiry of the last softwood lumber agreement, the industry has faced $10 billion in cumulated duty costs, directly undermining the viability of the sector and threatening thousands of jobs throughout the region. Dumas says this issue needs to be tackled together by a united front.
We're always open for discussions with my MP, Minister Haiju, as well as our MPPs provincially, Les Vigeois, and of course Kevin Holland on Thunder Bay Superior, Thunder Bay Atikokan, and Thunder Bay Superior North. These are voices that we have at the table, and we can definitely have their support and going forward. They understand the impacts it does in their ridings as well. So let's all work together, regardless of the colors of our political parties.
Justin Hardy, TBT News.
A serious collision involving a group of tree planters near Sioux Lookout has left at least one person with life-altering injuries and 24 more wounded. Ontario Provincial Police were called to a bus rollover on Highway 516 near Stain Lake at around 6:45 last night. The single vehicle collision involved over 30 adult passengers, most of them tree planters. 25 people were transported to area hospitals for medical treatment. The investigation into the cause of the crash is ongoing. While timelines are still tight, the City of Thunder Bay still has a bit of leeway for provincial funding for the temporary shelter village. Construction for the project needs to be completed by December 31st in order to qualify for $2.8 million from the government. However, City Council still haven't picked out a location for the village. Jessica Clement has the details.
City staff previously stated that construction for the proposed temporary shelter village needed to start within 120 days of the $2.8 million funding agreement signed by the Thunder Bay DSAB. But that's not the case anymore, according to City Manager John Collin.
The funder, the province in this case, is not that concerned about when it starts because they trust us. We're a municipality. So they're less concerned about when it starts, so they're going to give us a little bit of latitude there. They're more concerned about when can we finish the project.
Collin explains construction needs to finish by December 31st of this year.
So when you back that off, we are literally running out of time to get it done to satisfy that timeline. Okay. Now, there's a possibility of discussions with the province, and we're having those discussions to see if we can buy ourselves a bit more time. But right now, the date that we have committed to, that they have committed to for the funding, is 31 December.
City Council still has to approve a site after members rescinded its plans for a shelter village at Camp River Heritage Park during last week's meeting. Administration is now reviewing other potential sites, including the previously rejected Miles Street and Cumberland Street properties. City Council's next meeting is July 14th.
And we'll make it clear to the public in the coming days to week or so what the timeline plan is moving forward. Today, there is nothing I can divulge to the public because we haven't landed on the final version.
Jessica Clement, TBT News.
Thunder Bay Fire Rescue officials are now speaking publicly about an encampment fire on the city's north side on Thursday morning. Fortunately, no one was hurt. Firefighters were called to the blaze at the encampment on McVicker Creek at around 8 a.m. that day. Crews responded quickly and were able to extinguish the fire without any backup. An investigation into the cause of the fire is ongoing. Deputy Fire Chief Dave Torini notes that the use of propane or any heating appliance is always a concern to Thunder Bay Fire Rescue.
That's irrespective of whether they're located in an encampment or in a resident's backyard with a valid fire permit. So we just encourage all members of the public to be very careful with outdoor fires and heating appliances, and make sure they pay attention to all the safety regulations and recommendations for using those appliances.
Conmee's 7-week fire ban was lifted on Friday, now that a new, albeit used, fire truck is in service. The ban was put in place last month after the municipality's nearly 30-year-old pumper truck broke down. Conmee Fire Chief Rob Day notes they were hesitant to lift the fire ban, which was originally declared on May 9th, as a way to limit the extra fire strain on fire resources from neighboring municipalities. But the department found this retired pumper truck in Oshawa. Day says that it will buy them a couple of years until they can get a brand new one.
It's still a 20-year-old pumper, so it does have some age to it. That being said, with our call volume and stuff, it's going to suffice until we get a new pumper in place. Unfortunately, new trucks take a bit of time to get built, and we're looking at 1.5 to 2 years for that to happen.
The older pumper will now be used just for shuttling water to fires. A 38-year-old man has been charged with impaired driving after he was found asleep behind the wheel outside the Thunder Bay Police Station early this morning. He was parked in a spot reserved for the police. Officers discovered the suspicious vehicle shortly before 2:45 a.m. and noticed the driver showed multiple signs of impairment. Police escorted him into the station, where he refused to comply with a drug recognition expert officer. Along with the impaired charge, the man also received a 90-day license suspension and a 7-day vehicle impoundment. This morning, the City of Thunder Bay proclaimed June 30th as Indigenous Survivors Day, with a flag-raising ceremony followed by a gathering at Hillcrest Park. The day honors the strength, resilience, and voices of residential school survivors. Emma Chilton reports.
The day's events began with an Indigenous drum group and a flag-raising ceremony at City Hall. The city's manager of Indigenous Relations, Tanis Thompson, says she's glad to see the recognition of Indigenous Survivors Day and what it means for the First Nations, Inuit, and Métis populations in this community and region.
And this act and raising the flag at City Hall, and not only City Hall, but Hillcrest Park, to fly half-mast annually, year-round, to acknowledge, the children, the survivors, the veterans. It's so meaningful and impactful.
Acting Mayor Greg Johnson says it's important for the City of Thunder Bay to recognize the survivors and their stories.
An opportunity for people to come out and celebrate, which is also always very important. I think also just the recognition too, not only on the part of people that are here, but the City of Thunder Bay. We had some pretty powerful speeches and words, and that gives people an opportunity to tell their truth.
The event then moved to Hillcrest Park and featured more traditional ceremonies and survivor reflections. Fort William First Nation Chief Michelle Solomon says acknowledging the truth that has happened with Indigenous peoples and their history will help non-Indigenous people understand what has happened in our collective history.
But today is really significant to acknowledge the survivors and their resiliency of having experienced the trauma that they have through the multiple systems that they've experienced.
Thunder Bay Indigenous Advisory Council member and residential school survivor David Wilkinson Samard says these ceremonies are a way of acknowledging the positive things that are happening in our community for residential school survivors.
You know, we have to have these difficult conversations about what has happened to First Nations people and Indigenous and also the Métis that have suffered as well. You know, like I think these conversations are really important to acknowledge, you know, the past, but also to remember that going forward that we have a lot of really positive things that are going on in community.
Emma Chilton, TBT News.
Greenstone is one step closer to getting its new OPP station. The future facility is being paid for by Equinox Gold, the owner of the Greenstone gold mine, or the owners of the Greenstone gold mine, so that the company can expand an open pit near the current police headquarters. Justin Hardy explains.
Greenstone's new OPP station has been in the works for a long time, as the current station will eventually need to be destroyed to make room for the massive open pit mine located just outside of Geraldton. First announced in 2023, the new station design is still being finalized, but Council voted this week to give the CAO authority to sign a development agreement and approve minor amendments to avoid any holdups.
This is sort of us pre-approving because we would like to get this moving, yet you don't have another meeting till well into July. So if they're able to get the agreement and the minor amendments reviewed and agreed upon, then we can get it signed and they can get started.
Any amendments or rewrites will also be reviewed by the municipality's lawyers to determine if they need to be brought to council. Once the development agreement is signed by mine and Greenstone officials, the building permit can be issued. The hope is that construction can begin this year, like originally planned. McPherson says the project is immensely important to all of Greenstone's communities.
It's important to the Ontario Provincial Police that they have a new building which is on Highway 11, the main thoroughfare through east-west through Greenstone. And with this new structure, there's been considerable discussion between the First Nations and the OPP on the design of it. So this is going to be a very different station.
Greenstone OPP wasn't available to discuss the project this week. Its officers will continue to work out of their current station until the new one is ready. Justin Hardy, TBT News.
The Sundays in the Park concert series has officially kicked off at Chippewa Park, bringing free shows to music lovers throughout the summer season.
Just let your arms surround her, paint a rainbow all around her. Don't let her see your cloudy sky.
Hundreds of residents came out to the Chippewa Pavilion yesterday to enjoy a performance by local music legend Tommy Horrocks. He played a variety of musical genres and always draws in a crowd. The past president of the Friends of Chippewa Park, Bill LaFontaine, says there will be a wide range of musicians taking the stage every Sunday afternoon.
Today is the start of the Sunday in the Parks out here at Chippewa. We have entertainment every Sunday afternoon from 2 to 4 on the backstage here. And it goes on all summer, and there's different groups that are coming out for the whole summer. Tommy Horrocks, he's a great draw. He's been around a long time. He also plays with the sensational hot rods and everything, and he's been here. He's 80 years now, and he's still going strong.
More information about Sundays in the Park can be found on the Friends of Chippewa Facebook page. Summer fun is back in full swing at Boulevard Lake as the Splish Splash Water Park officially opened for its 4th season this past weekend. Former city resident Jerry Champagne first brought the floating attraction to Boulevard in 2022, and every summer since then it's been very popular, bringing cool summer fun to kids of all ages in Thunder Bay. Champagne says it was very busy again for the opening weekend and this afternoon, where there were a few dozen kids on the play structure. With sunny skies, or some sun in the sky at least, and some nice temperatures, it surely was a great day to be out there.
It was great. We opened Saturday. We had a really good crowd, probably had about 50 or 60 kids out there most of the day. Yesterday it would rain on and off, so every time it rained it slowed down. One thing I want to tell everybody is if it's raining in Westford, it might be sunny here, so check the radar. I had a phone call this morning from somebody saying, oh, it's raining over here, and as you can see, it's sunny at Boulevard. So, and even if it rains, come on out because you're going to get wet anyway.
Well, that is a great point. Now, Fiona, we'll turn to you. And yeah, if it's going to rain, might as well get wet anyways. And
Exactly.
it was quite a day of a mixture out there for the weather.
Yes, it was. I had people who told me they were on the north side of the city, didn't see any rain whatsoever. Meanwhile, I'm driving through a thunderstorm on the south side. And I do have to mention, though, even though, you know, you're going to get wet anyway, not a good idea to be on Boulevard Lake if there's a potential thunderstorm. Lightning and water don't mix. So just keep that in mind, because we certainly had periods where there was thunder and lightning happening. But for most of the day, it was partly to mostly cloudy. Winds were from the south, very light, 5 to 17 kilometers per hour. That was after an early morning low of 11. And then a daytime high of 26 that at one point in the afternoon, it felt like 32 with the humidex. That is a steamy end to June. If we take a look at what's going on across the region, temperatures themselves fairly consistent at this hour. We've got lucky number 22 for Red Lake, Kenora, Sioux Lookout, Armstrong, Upsala, Dryden. Then we hit 21 in Fort Francis, Atikokan, Nipigon, and then it jumps in Greenstone there at 27, but the humidex there is actually only 29. The irony for the temperatures is earlier today, it was a much more broader mix of temperatures, but the humidex was consistently hitting or topping out at around 29 across the board. Now we've got mostly cloudy skies to the north, but there have been a couple of fluctuations, periods of sunshine, and when the sunshine comes out, it gets hot. But Sault Ste. Marie, currently experiencing a thunderstorm at 21. They actually had a humidex of 35 just an hour and a half ago. That's the difference, that a nice thunderstorm popping in, letting some of that humidity go, and things cool down quite a bit. Right now, the humidex is sitting around 28, 29. Here in the city of Thunder Bay tonight, it's going to be a very mild night, a low of 16. There's a 60% chance of showers and risk of thunderstorms this evening. After midnight, however, it is expected to just become partly cloudy. Winds will be very light from the northwest, about 10 to 15 kilometers per hour. And then as we head into Canada Day, very sunny, very warm to start. Probably good news for those who like to get up early in the morning. Unfortunately, by about noon, we've got a risk of showers and thunderstorms for most of the afternoon and into the evening. However, with it, if you can just kind of avoid those potential showers and thunderstorms, you're going to see the humidex once again topping 30. So Canada Day could be hit or miss depending on where you are in the region, because remember, those forecasts are for a very large geographical region. And as we already saw today, you can have sunshine on one side of just the city itself and thunderstorms on the other side.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Fiona.